July 2, 1943. Castelvetrano Airfield, Sicily. The Focke-Wulf 190 pilot never spotted the P-40 Warhawk, plunging from high above until heavy gun blasts ripped into his body, hurling his plane twisting down to the Sicilian fields far below. First Lieutenant Charles B. Hall, a 22-year-old from Brazil, Indiana, had just achieved what German Luftwaffe leaders thought utterly out of reach. A black flyer had taken out one of their top fighter planes. The Nazi mark added to Hall's P-40 Warhawk that day would mark the start of 112 faux aircraft wrecked by the flyers. The Germans would soon dub Schwarze the Black Birdmen. In Nazi Germany, race beliefs labeled black folks as Untermenschen, less than human, unable to handle tough machines or show bravery in fights. The Nuremberg rules had banned unions between Germans and those of African roots. Yet up in the Mediterranean air, that false idea was set to crash hard against truth, as 992 skilled flyers from Tuskegee, Alabama, would steadily crush both German planes and German myths of race superiority. What the Luftwaffe flyers did not grasp as they rose to meet United States bombers in 1943 was that they faced some of the most strictly drilled, deeply driven fighter flyers in the whole United States Army Air Forces. Men who had beaten hurdles their white peers never knew, who had practiced tougher and longer than usual flyers, and who took into clashes not only the call of country duty, but the load of showing a full race's strength. The numbers of sky battles would soon paint the truth over Europe. 15,000 fight flights, 1,578 tasks, 112 sky wins, and a bomber guard loss level much lower than white fighter teams. Facts that would push even the wildest Nazi believers to face the failure of their race ideas. The path to that first sky win started not in clashes, but in the harsh world of American separation. In 1925, the United States Army War College had released a brief named Use of Negro Manpower in War that ended, compared to the white man, he is clearly of lower mind, he is naturally weak in spirit. This formal Army judgment said black troops missed the smarts for tech jobs and the guts for fight leading. Yet even as Army heads held to these biases, a few black Americans were already proving them false. Eugene Bullard had flown for France in World War I, since America barred him from serving. Bessie Coleman had gained her flyer license in France in 1921, when no United States Flight Center would take her. By the 1930s, the Coffey School of Aeronautics in Chicago had taught dozens of black everyday flyers, showing that flight skill ignored race lines. The push for shift grew stronger as war signs loomed over Europe. Rights chiefs like Walter White of the NAACP, work leader A. Philip Randolph, and Judge William H. Hastie pressed endlessly for black entry in Army flying. Black papers, the Chicago Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier, the Baltimore Afro-American, hit the Roosevelt team with a plain query: how could America battle for freedom overseas while blocking it inside? On April 3, 1939, Public Law 18 at last opened the gate a bit. Senator Harry H. Schwartz had added a change needing the Everyday Flyer Training Plan to hold one or more centers named by the Civil Aeronautics Authority for the teaching of any Negro air flyer. It was a reluctant give wrapped in separation, but it was a start. When Franklin Roosevelt sought a fresh third term in 1940, he wanted black votes in Maine northern towns. On January 16, 1941, Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson declared the creation of the 99th Pursuit Squadron, a full black flying team. The news came with a note that showed the Army's hopes this would be a test to check if blacks could learn as fight flyers. Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. knew the heavy load of leading when he guided 26 flyers of the 99th Fighter Squadron to North Africa in April 1943. The child of America's first black general, Davis, had suffered 4 years of quiet shunning at West Point, where no white student would talk to him beyond work needs. Now he led men who bore not just their own dreams, but the hopes of 13 million Black Americans. The 99th reached Farjuna, Tunisia, linked to the 33rd Fighter Group under Colonel William W. Momir, a leader who hid no doubts about Black flyers. Momir gave them watch flights over the Mediterranean, holding them from true clashes. He hoped they would flop, and when they did not shine right away, he had his reason. The dawn of June 2nd, 1943, marked their first clash task, a strike on the Italian-held Isle of Pantelleria. As their used P-40 Warhawks rose toward their aims, German fighters popped up. The Tuskegee flyers kept shape, shielding their bombers. No planes fell on either side, but the Germans had gained their first teaching. These flyers would not crack under strain. But it was July 2nd, 1943, that shifted all. Charles Hall was on his 8th task, guarding B-25 Mitchell bombers hitting Castelvetrano Airfield in Sicily. Two Focke-Wulf 190s rushed the bomber group. Hall later said, "I spotted two Focke-Wulfs tailing the bombers right after the bombs fell. I aimed for the gap between the fighters and bombers and got to swing inside the Germans. I let loose a long spray and watched my shots hit the second plane. He was banking left but suddenly dropped and plunged straight to the earth. When Hall touched down, the whole base burst out." Black ground teams, who had taken months of slights from white staff, at last had their reply to every cut. Hall's win was the first sky kill by a Black American flyer in United States Army history. By January 1944, the 99th Fighter Squadron had fought for 7 months, but Colonel Momir had sent a crushing brief claiming they missed drive and urging their pull from clashes. The brief hit General Henry Hap Arnold, who geared to end the test. Then came Anzio. On January 27, 1944, the Luftwaffe started huge strikes on Allied troops at the Anzio beach base. 15 flyers of the 99th in old P-40s met better Focke-Wulf 190s over the clash zone. What came next would quiet the doubters for good. The 99th took out many foe planes. Counts differ between 8 and 13 kills over 2 days. Captain Charles Hall took 2 more wins, making his count 3. In 2 days, flying worse gear, they had wrecked more foe planes than in their prior 7 months of clashes. The War Department started a check matching the 99th with other P-40 teams and ended they were doing just as well as white units. The win at Anzio showed Black flyers could shine in clashes when given the shot. In May 1944, the 332nd Fighter Group, joining the 99th, 100th, 301st, and 302nd Fighter Squadrons, got commands that would change them from outsiders to heroes. They would link the 15th Air Force as bomber guards, flying the long, risky trips deep into Nazi Germany. Colonel Benjamin Davis called his flyers at Ramitelli Airfield on Italy's Adriatic shore. "We cannot lose bombers," he told them. "Our work is not to be top shooters. Our work is to get those bombers back safe." This order would shape their clash way, stick with the bombers no matter what. In June 1944, General Nathan Twining set a clear mark system for fighter teams. Each would get unique colors for quick spotting. The 332nd got red. Not just red fronts or red strips, but full tail parts painted bright red. The P-51 Mustangs, with their red tails, red blade turns, and red front bands became easy to spot. The first bomber teams to get red tail guards did not know their shields were black. They only knew these fighters stayed near, never leaving them for quick kills. Talk spread through the bomber teams. Ask for the red tails if you can. July 18th, 1944 would push the red tails like no other. Colonel Davis guided 66 Mustangs to meet bombers aiming the Luftwaffe spot at Memmingen, Germany. The bombers were behind. Davis chose key, circle in Foland instead of head back. When the bombers showed, so did the Luftwaffe, about 100 German fighters hitting from all sides. The Germans had learned that huge numbers might break the red tail's shield wall. Despite strong guard by the 332nd, who took 11 to 12 wins, 15 B-17s dropped to foe fighters in 20 minutes of wild clashes. The 332nd lost 3 flyers, Lieutenants Robert Hooton, Weldon Groves, and Alfred Gorham. Doubters said the high bomber drops proved black flyers could not handle big fights. But work checks showed the fact. The 332nd had come to a hopeless spot. With massive German forces already hitting the bombers, they had stopped full ruin. By March 1945, the Luftwaffe's usual fighters could hardly challenge Allied air rule. But Germany had one final play, the Messerschmitt Me-262, the globe's first working jet fighter. With a top rush of 540 miles per hour, it could outspeed any blade-driven plane. On March 24, 1945, the 332nd Fighter Group got its toughest job. Guard bombers, 1,600 miles round trip to Berlin to strike the Daimler-Benz tank plant. Scouts warned that Me-262s from Jagdgeschwader 7 would shield the mark. Colonel Davis led 43 P-51 Mustangs into the Reichskorps. As they neared Berlin, Me-262s showed, the biggest jet fighter group ever gathered for one stop. Lieutenant Roscoe Brown had learned the jet's weak spots. We knew the German jets were quicker than us. Instead of chasing straight, we went off from them and then swung into their blind areas, he said. Brown took down one Me-262, noting, I climbed at him in a 15-degree rise and shot 3 long sprays from 2,000 feet at 8 o'clock to him, almost at once. The flyer jumped out from about 24,500 feet. Lieutenant Earl Lane did what many thought out of reach, taking down an Me-262 with a 2,000-yard angle shot using the fresh K-14 Smart gun sight. Lieutenant Charles Brantley took the 3rd jet win that day. The wreck of 3 Me-262s in one clash stood for more jets than most fighter teams would wreck in the full war. The Red Tails had just topped the sum of all prior United States Me-262 kills in one noon. The 332nd Fighter Group gained a top unit praise for this task. Not all meets between Tuskegee flyers and Germans ended in win. 32 flyers became war captives, and their times showed tangled links between Nazi beliefs and Army fact. Lieutenant Alexander Jefferson was shot down on August 12, 1944. During his 19th task, his P-51 took anti-air fire over South France while hitting radar spots. At his questioning, the German officer had wide scouts on the 332nd Fighter Group. The questioner had info on Ramitelli Airfield, on our team leaders, even facts on my parents' home in Detroit, Jefferson recalled. He knew my father was a teacher and my mother's birth name. Their scouts were scarily full. Inside Stalag Luft 3, Jefferson found himself handled like any other United States officer. White captives from bomber teams often came to him with thanks for Red Tail Shield. These talks, out of reach in split America, happened easy in German captive spots. The oddness was not missed on Jefferson. Here I was in a Nazi captive spot, being treated more fair by white Americans than I would be back home. When the war closed and Jefferson went back to the United States, he was quickly split at the landing spot. While German flyers reportedly nodded the Red Tail skill with the name Schwarze Vogelmenschen, American bomber teams became their loudest backers. These men who stared death on every task cared zero about race, only living. Bomber teams built their own tales about the Red Tails. Stories flew about their special flying way, how they shook their wings in hello, their close shapes, their stand to not leave hurt bombers. Red Tail Angels became the bomber team's name for them. The numbers backed the bomber team's picks. Checks by Air Force expert Dr. Daniel Hallman showed that bombers under 332nd Fighter Group Guard lost only 27 planes to foe fighters, matched to a mean of 46 for other P-51 teams of the 15th Air Force. This better shield level happened despite the Red Tails flying some of the longest and riskiest tasks of the war. By war's close, the Tuskegee Airmen had built a clash record that smashed every pre-war guess about Black Army strength. Clash runs, 1,578 clash tasks flown, 15,000 plus single flights done, 179 bomber guard tasks, 311 tasks for the 15th Air Force. Foe planes wrecked, 112 foe planes wrecked in sky clashes, 150 foe planes wrecked on the ground, 3 Mi-262 jet fighters shot down on March 24, 1945. Ground marks wrecked 950 rail cars, trucks, and motor rides, 254 engine pulls. TA-22 past Italian wrecker Giuseppe Mazzini hurt beyond fix on June 25, 1944. Shield record 27 bombers lost to foe fighters versus 46 mean for other teams. Better shield level held across 179 guard tasks. Single feats. Lee Archer, 4 sure wins. Joseph Ellsbury, 4 wins, including 3 FW-190s on July 12, 1944. Edward Toppins, 4 wins. Clarence Lester, 3 kills in 1 task. July 18, 1944. Honors gained 96 top flying crosses, 332nd Fighter Group Flyers, 744 Air Medals, 14 Bronze Stars, 8 Purple Hearts, 3 top unit praises for the 99th Fighter Squadron, 1 top unit praise for the 332nd Fighter Group. Human toll, 66 flyers killed in clashes, 32 flyers caught as war captives, 84 killed in drills and non-clash tasks. The shift from laughs to honor was not just about guts. It showed better United States drill ways and tech edges the Red Tails used with sharpness. At Tuskegee, flyers logged more hours than their white peers, 300 matched to 200 for white flyers. They drilled group flying without stop, knowing that in clashes order would be their lead. The dropout level at Tuskegee was 60% matched to 40% for white students. Only the top survived the plan, making what Colonel Noel Parrish, Tuskegee leader, called a super pick team. The move through plane kinds told its own tale. The 99th started with passed-down P-40 Warhawks, already old when they reached North Africa. These water-cooled Allison engine fighters fell short of German Bf-109s and FW-190s in nearly every speed mark. Yet the Tuskegee Flyers used the P-40's better turn skill and strong build to stand firm. The coming of P-51 Mustangs in July 1944 changed the Red Tails into matches of any fighter unit in the war. The North American P-51D Mustang stood for United States factory perfection. Its Packard-made Merlin engine gave it a top rush of 437 miles per hour. Its 6.50 caliber machine guns could wreck any plane. Most key, its reach, over 1,600 miles with extra tanks, let it guard bombers anywhere in the Reich. Behind every flyer who shot down a German plane stood dozens of help staff, fixers, gun loaders, team chiefs who kept the Red Tails in air. Of the about 16,000 Tuskegee Airmen who served, fewer than 1,000 were flyers. The rest were the quiet heroes who made win possible. The ground teams worked wonders with short supplies. Ramitelli Airfield in Italy was basic matched to other United States spots. Extra parts were rare, with the 332nd often last for goods. Yet their plane-ready level, the share of planes set for clashes, matched or topped that of white units. These ground teams also faced clashes. German strikes on Ramitelli were few but lethal. On March 24, 1944, a German bomb strike killed several help staff. The men kept working through the hit, pulling planes from burning fuel spots. The big bomb plan over Europe gave the final test ground for the Tuskegee Airmen. Each B-17 Flying Fortress cost $238,000 and held 10 highly drilled team members. The drop of a single bomber stood for a big plan setback that spread through the whole war push. This is why Bomber Shield counted more than sky wins. Colonel Davis grasped this when he told his flyers to fight the pull to chase German fighters. Anyone can take down a fighter if they leave their spot, he said. It takes order to stay with the bombers when the foe is fleeing. The Red Tails' guard ways grew through know-how. They built a 3-layer shield, close guard weaving right over the bombers, middle guard set to stop coming fighters, and high guard watching for plunge hits. This setup needed exact teamwork and full order. The Tuskegee Airmen battled 2 wars at once, against harsh rule overseas and bias at home. Their clash record challenged both Nazi race beliefs and American split, showing that top skill in sky clashes went beyond race groups. While the Tuskegee Airmen fought Germans overseas, they battled bias inside. Their wins over the Luftwaffe made big news in black papers, but were often played down or skipped by main news. The Pittsburgh Courier's Double V push, win against harsh rule overseas and bias at home, used the Tuskegee Airmen as top cases. The match with German knowing was sharp. By 1945, the Luftwaffe reportedly knew just who flew the red-tailed Mustangs, calling them Schwarze Vogelmännchen. Meanwhile, many white Americans did not know black flyers were real. This lack was on purpose. The War Department seldom shared the Tuskegee Airmen's wins. Win in Europe brought not joy, but questions for the Tuskegee Airmen. While white teams geared for win walks, the 332nd faced asks about their next. The Army Air Forces planned to keep split despite clash proof of its foolishness. For years after World War II, the feats of the Tuskegee Airmen stayed mostly unknown to Maine America. Single flyers fought with this wipeout. Lee Archer, with his 4 wins, worked as a top boss, but seldom spoke about his war record. "Nobody trusted me anyway," he said. A black fighter flyer must be false. In 1948, President Harry Truman signed Executive Order 9981, joining the United States Army, a choice shaped by the Tuskegee Airmen's class show. Benjamin Davis, who had led the Red Tails over Berlin, became the Air Force's first black general in 1954. Honor came slow. In 2007, President George W. Bush gave the Congressional Gold Medal to the Tuskegee Airmen. Only 300 of the first flyers lived to join. Many had waited over 60 years for country honor. The shift from laughs to honor was not tale but proven truth. The numbers stay clear. 112 sky wins against the Luftwaffe, 3 Me-262 jet fighters wrecked in one task, 150 full planes wrecked on the ground, 27 bombers lost versus 46 mean for other teams, 96 top flying crosses gained by 332nd Fighter Group flyers. The reportedly named Schwarze Vogelmännchen proved that bias falls when hit with clear strength. Every German fighter wrecked, every bomber shielded, every task done, added proof to a sure case. The shade of a flyer's skin had zero link to his skill to fly and battle. Roscoe Brown, who shot down a German jet over Berlin, rapped their feet. "We did not just battle the Germans, we battled lack of know, bias, and hate, and we won all 3 clashes." The Tuskegee Airmen had not just won clashes, they had shifted history. They fought 3 wars at once and won them all, beating the Luftwaffe in clashes, challenging Nazi race beliefs through show, and at last helping smash American split through clear top skill. When given the shot, the Tuskegee Airmen flew high, changing laughs into honor, bias into welcome, and foes into watchers of their amazing feat.